And the president held court at the White House for 2 hours today, marking what he says are 365 accomplishments in his first 365 days of term 2. Love him or hate him, it hasn't been boring. I think we can all agree on that. And joining us to weigh in on the one-year mark are a great panel of political experts. William Howell, professor of American politics at the Johns Hopkins University and author of the new book, Trajectory of Power, The Rise of a Strongman Presidency. Also joining us, Stephen Caliendo, political science professor at North Central College, and Clifford Young, chair at the political polling and research company Ipsos and author of the book, Nativist Nation. A lot of great perspectives here today. So year one, William Howell, the president says he's kept his promises. He alleges prices are down, the U.S. is more respected around the globe, and the border is closed. Where do we delineate fact from fiction here?
It's an ongoing challenge. Look, there have been some material challenges, changes to the world which are incontrovertible. What's happening at the southern border is a very big deal. It's a huge turnaround. In that sense, he clearly delivers. In all kinds of other ways, we have a mix of hyperbole and fiction. I think what we've seen more than anything, though, is a change in how we govern. There's not just, if we want to understand the significance of this last year, it's not just about what policies were passed or where he did or did not follow through on a promise made on the campaign trail. It's changes to how we govern, how we come together to the extent that we're able to. And there we just see profound tumult and change that we're going to be grappling with for a good long time.
I think one of the obvious areas of that is the Department of Justice, which is clearly very connected to the president, acting on some of his priorities and the things that he would like them to investigate, whereas in the past, at least past administrations tried to keep a firewall, at least a perceived firewall, between the White House and the DOJ to to further the notion that it was an independent agency. But Stephen Caliendo, how profoundly has government changed in the last year?
Yeah, Dean Howell is correct in that assessment. It's policy-wise, nothing for progressives to really complain about. The elections have consequences. You have Republican type policies that come out, but that's not really what's happening here. What's happening is that under Donald Trump, Republicans have really become the big government party, to govern not only at the federal level, but only by one branch and in fact one person at the federal level. And there's an expectation that you mentioned the Department of Justice, Paris, but all of the executive branch departments, as well as the judiciary, and we've certainly seen Republicans in both houses of Congress, for the most part, fall in line, not ask questions, and not engage in their constitutional duties. And so, I'm thinking a lot about Animal Farm. Our 8th grade teachers all made us read it. It was supposed to be a story of the Bolshevik Revolution, but the slow slide into authoritarianism and centralized power by one person is really the story of the first year of the second Trump administration.
And Clifford Young, I think a lot of Republicans' reticence to speak out on some of the things that in private or in the past they might have spoken out on comes down to polling. Let's talk about polling within the Republican Party. It's slipped in general, but still pretty strong among his base, no?
Yeah, he's still in a good place. That is, Trump is in a good place with his base. I would agree with everyone here. This last year is a year of friction. It's a year where Trump's agenda has gone against the grain, indeed, across the issues: immigration, ICE raids, even foreign policy, tariffs. You have less than a majority of Americans agreeing with it, a strong supermajority of Republicans. But that dissonance, that misalignment creates friction. I think we're going to see the same sort of thing going into 2026 now, going into the midterms. This is not good necessarily long-term for his numbers. He's on the edge. That is, Trump is on the edge at this point at 42% approval rating. The inflection point is 40. Anything below that is problematic. And yes, he's being buoyed by the Republican Party, by the base. But overall, lots of friction, lots of tension in the system at this point.
William Howell, foreign policy, another huge difference over the last year, difference in approach from both Republican and Democratic presidents in the past when talking about a criticism of NATO, more supportive of Russia, tough on Ukraine, this urge to to take over Greenland and to have some kind of, Western hemispheric stronghold. How would you characterize these changes in approach to foreign policy?
I mean, it's a mix of continuities and discontinuities. The continuities are things like a distrust in international organizations, an effort to there's a kind of isolationist strain that runs through Trump's politics. But what we've seen just in the last month, I mean, just a few weeks ago, we were talking about this, the assault and the arrest and the takedown of the president of Venezuela. And now there's a pivot towards Greenland, of all things. This was not a topic that we were talking about robustly in the 2024 election. And it isn't just that he is gesturing towards it. He's already threatened to impose all kinds of sanctions against European countries that would stand by Greenland. This is an upending of not just policy, but of basic conventions in our orientation to the global community, which has lots of consequences downstream for issues involving trust and continuity, and just people trying to get clarity about what game it is that the United States is playing. There's all sorts of volatility. The friction that Cliff was talking about isn't sitting just in the domestic polity. It's running through the global community as well.
Stephen Caliendo, another huge change in policy, tariffs. Both Republican and Democratic presidents in the past were pretty much in lockstep on the belief in free trade or trading pacts, trading alliances, but the president has used tariffs not only as an economic tool, but as a tool of coercion and punishment in foreign policy. Tell us how the tariff policy has impacted domestically and around the world.
Yeah, I think we've seen this with small business owners in particular expressing concerns about some of the goods that they need to bring in from other places and the impact it's had on their businesses and on their local economies. But I think what we saw last night in the middle of the night is the president warned that he's going to put tariffs on European countries that don't like his position on Greenland. And again, it pairs us to your point. There's a real punitive aspect of the way he's using tariffs. And the truth is, he doesn't understand economics, and that's not, most presidents don't. But usually presidents surround themselves with people who do understand economics well and are willing to say the hard truths. What we found, of course, is that, the study after study shows that it's American taxpayers that are paying. And so instead, President Trump's talking about this billions of dollars in tariffs that are going into the Treasury, but he's not saying where they came from. They came from ordinary folks who are buying things and paying more for them. And so now it's going into the Treasury, and he's going to use that to give $1,976 checks to service members and so forth. So there's just a lack of clarity. You made the point, I think, about the 2024 elections, Dean Howe, and I think that really the rhetoric we heard there doesn't match the policies that we've seen, and I think that's where, in Professor Young's data, we're seeing some of the buyer's remorse.
Yeah, and Clifford Young, you've studied this polling, you've researched his ratings over the last year. You say that 40 and below is really the crisis point, and conventional wisdom says that the party in power always gets hurt during the midterms, especially with a broadly unpopular president. So what does that portend for 2026?
Well, first and foremost, Trump and the administration has not completely fallen off the cliff, right? They're at 42. But it's not a great place to start 2026. There's a lot of negative drivers there, especially the economy and more specifically affordability. Trump won on cost of living in 2024. He surfed that wave and now he owns it, right? And so I think by mid-year he'll be at 40%. I think that's the trajectory. That's not good for the Republicans in the midterm. The party out of power, that is the Republicans right now, typically do poorly in the midterms. The party in power does typically poorly during the midterms. This is a Democratic year. I think there's a lot of headwinds going into this 2026. This is in part why we're seeing Trump behave like he's behaving. I wouldn't call it flailing, but he's creating a lot of noise. He's looking for levers he can pull to tweak public opinion in different ways, whether it's foreign policy interventions like Venezuela, or talking about rebate checks when it for all Americans when it comes to tariffs. These are all ways to sort of control a bit the agenda, but it's a very difficult agenda for the Republicans and Trump at this point.
You know, William Howell, you've written about this. You have a new book about this. You talk about the consolidation of federal power, not just with the federal government, but into one branch of the federal government, exerting the president's will on Chicago, on immigration, on criminal justice policies in Chicago. How difficult do you think are those things to undo? Say Democrats take control in 2026 or you know, a new president in 2029?
Well, let's be clear about what's happening here. This is not just about a president claiming power. All presidents claim power. All presidents have an interest in expanding the boundaries of their power. This is something altogether different. And it isn't just the pushback against norms and rules. It's an effort to delegitimize anything that stands in his way, to leverage the Justice Department to target not just political enemies, but political opponents. It's the exercise of unilateral power at every turn. What we don't see with Trump is an effort to build the coalitions that are needed for hard, enduring policy change. This is about, again and again, him simply asserting his will and brushing aside any institution or individual who might stand in his way. This is the stuff of strongman power. What does it mean to recover from it, to redirect it? Well, a lot is needed. It will require a great deal more than just an election. This is a legacy that we're going to be dealing with for years to come.
Stephen Caliendo, here's a very broad and open-ended question. What's been the biggest impact on Chicago? I mean, I think we can point to the images that we have witnessed with federal immigration agents, you know, marching down streets in camo and long guns, residential streets everywhere from Little Village to Evanston, and you know, asking people for their paperwork and really causing a lot of chaos. Is that the enduring impact on Chicago so far?
That was the immediate impact on Chicago, Paris. I think the enduring impact, I'm going to take it in a little bit of a different direction. So thanks for the softball, wide-ended question. All of us are very much connected to institutions of higher education. And I think whether it was law firms at the beginning to institutions of higher ed, if you think about some of the great colleges, and North Central College is a great college, but I'm talking about University of Chicago, Northwestern, really excellent universities in the area. They've all been hit very hard with the federal funding, the grants being removed, but also sort of the, you know, kind of the tactics that the administration had used to try to coerce them into certain behaviors. You know, nobody's really signed on to this campus compact that he had pushed in the fall. And that's good news, but there's still a lot of power that's being yielded over colleges and universities and funding agencies, National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health. And this is, again, we're not going to be able to just put this back when the administration leaves. This is not a light switch you turn back on. This is science that has been built over years and years, not just medical science, all kinds of science. And it's being destroyed systematically because it's in the way. And it's going to take a long time to rebuild. And I think Chicago in particular, but other cities that have great universities in them and great research universities are going to be facing this for a long time.
And Chicago is certainly home to fine research universities that employ a lot of the folks here on this panel. Clifford Young, a lot of these policies don't poll well. The obsession with Greenland doesn't poll well. The notion of running Venezuela doesn't poll well. The notion of not releasing the Epstein files doesn't poll well anywhere. So if the president sticks on these issues and on his approach to them, is he going to get hurt more?
It doesn't get him anywhere electorally or in terms of legitimacy, in terms of his approval rating. It might misdirect the conversation in the short term. Indeed, we saw that with Venezuela, that we were talking about Epstein. All of a sudden, the intervention happened, and we were talking about that. That's very short-term day trading, let's say, to change the conversation. It doesn't help him with public opinion. It doesn't align him to the critical issue of the day, which is affordability and other sort of domestic issues. I just want to add a point because, you know, everyone here has been making, you know, a general point about norms and institutions and the like. And I would like to say, in part at least, public opinion is giving him license, that is Trump license to do what he's doing. If you look at the data specifically, there's a widespread belief that the system is broken, that parties and politicians no longer work for the average person. This is especially acute. That is, this belief is especially acute among Republicans, but all Americans believe that. In addition to this belief system, looks at strong leaders, especially strong leaders that break the rules. That's the only way to fix a broken system. And this will be the legacy after Trump. And going to some of the points already made here, there is this belief system that the system itself isn't delivering what it should be delivering on. It's a signal from public opinion that things aren't good. That doesn't mean we can't correct them. We can't provide solutions to them. But Trump doesn't exist in a vacuum. Indeed, he in part gets his license from public opinion.
Certainly.
Can I jump in on this? I think this is really important. It's not just that people are we're just sort of holding our nose when we think about these anti-democratic actions. There is not just a constituency that is willing to put up with this, but that applauds this, that celebrates this. It's finally the pushback against a discredited political order. This is the stuff of populist politics. So this is what's behind Trump isn't just all of his individual personal ambition. It's something much larger that we have to grapple with.
Well, and it seems like, that Trump is an avatar sometimes for the people that his base would like to direct their rage at. And that is a tactic that has worked for him very well. I want to, speaking of working very well, the three of you work great together as a panel, but we're out of time. William Howell, Stephen Caliendo, and Clifford Young, thanks so much for talking with us.